The opening of the legal year is largely a ceremonial affair, but it has been used in the past and in the present as an opportunity for a certain level of political commentary as well. And it turns out that this year is the last year that a chairman of the Bar Council will be addressing the bench. Azopardi QC said the change of label reflected the fused profession in Gibraltar and the revolution in legal services provided by the new legislation. He said his successor would still have plenty to do in establishing the reforms provided for by the Legal Services Act.
The change of name is not just, as I explained in my speech, nomenclature, because we wanted to transmit the fact that the chairman of the Law Council, as it will become, speaks not just for barristers but for solicitors, in-house lawyers, crown lawyers, law cost draftsmen and legal executives. And it's quite important for us in the context of the entire reform of the Legal Services Act that we change the name of the Law Council and put it on a statutory footing, which is what we've done also in the body of this Act. This Act is no short of a legal revolution in the way that the legal services are regulated in Gibraltar. It is the most important reform of legal services in 50 years.
It is not unheard of for speakers at the opening of the legal year to raise matters of controversy. This year, the Chief Justice, Anthony Dudley, himself acknowledged that it is unusual for him to make public statements, but thought it appropriate to comment on the government's decision to withdraw funding for a fourth judge at the end of Justice Adrian Jack's 3-year contract. He said there had been an increase in the number of high-value cases coming through the Supreme Court, and this inevitably resulted in longer trials and more complicated judgments, which without a fourth judge would take longer to get through. He said he would seek to persuade the government to reconsider its decision. Mr. Justice Dudley doesn't do media interviews, but it was a sentiment which was echoed by Mr. Azopardi.
Well, look, our starting point is, as we pointed out in August, that it's a matter of regret for the Bar Council that we were not consulted by the government on whether it is necessary to continue to fund the post of a fourth judge in the Supreme Court. And we believe, and we support the Chief Justice, that the government should reconsider the matter and indeed fund the post, because you can't judge the resources, the judicial resources that are required to properly administer cases by simply statistics on numbers of cases, because cases are really complex nowadays, very paper heavy, because of technology and so on. And the reality is that one big criminal case, as we saw over the last couple of years, or indeed a big high-value complex trust action, will dominate a judge for several months.
The Attorney General reflected on the huge amount of work already carried out by his office in preparing for Brexit in such a short space of time since the EU referendum. He said discussions with the Joint Ministerial Council, headed by Foreign Office Minister Robin Walker, are proving invaluable. Llamas QC said the Gibraltar government's Brexit strategy had been clear: to maintain a free-flowing frontier and enhance trading relations with the UK. The Attorney General said if the matter comes up, Gibraltar is ready to mount a legal challenge to the EU's Clause 24, which effectively gives Spain a veto on any agreements applying to the ROC.
Hopefully it will not be necessary. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, but we have analyzed the situation very closely. We have examined the legality of Clause 24, and we've got a firm view as to whether it's lawful or not, but we need to see how it's deployed, if it is deployed at all. So until such time, we're just wait and see, and as you imply in your question, hopefully it won't be necessary to get to that. And we've got to bear in mind that when it comes to the EU-UK negotiations, I mean, those Brexit matters which are not bilateral matters between the UK and Gibraltar, by far, the most important one is the border. And judging from the statements made by the new Señor Dastis, the new Spanish Foreign Secretary, I think that common sense will prevail on the border, and as long as that works, then that Brexit negotiation between the EU and the UK is one which should not require the deployment of Clause 24.
This year, the ceremony was graced by the presence of a very senior figure in the legal world. Lord Mance has recently been appointed the Deputy President of the Supreme Court of England and Wales. GBC has secured an exclusive interview with him, which will air next week.